السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Just hold it. Alhamdulillah. So, inshallah ta'ala, for the few moments that I have with you guys, I want to introduce you to this incident of migration, hijrah. And with the time that I have, I won't be able to cover all of it, because this incident, there are so many lessons, so many fawaid, so many benefits and lessons that can be extracted from this one incident. But as I mentioned to you last night, I don't want to concentrate on what is apparent. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the human being as those who يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. Now we know what is apparent from the life of this world, but as it relates to the hereafter, we're completely heedless. And that is just indicative of who we are as human beings, especially in this day and time where we concentrate only on the surface. Sathiyan, our outlook, our image, our friendships, our relationships, most of the time is very surface. We don't like to go deeper than the surface because that requires a little bit more emotion. That requires a little bit more attention than we are willing to offer. So we just stay right there on the surface, and some of us are content with that. But I'm one of those people, I like to go deeper. So when I engage people, my conversations are meaningful. My conversations are substance-oriented, and not just the lame conversations that we're used to having. And you can condition yourself to be like this by being a good listener. Just listening to people, asking more questions to get more information. I'm a talker, but I'm also a good listener. And part of being a good leader is being a good listener. Listening to what people are not saying, not so much what they are saying. Because the conversation that is not being articulated is most of the time more important than the conversation that is being articulated. If you guys follow me. Most of the time, the substance in our conversations is found in what is not being said, not what is being said. So, we want to take a journey to this migration. The first thing that we have to understand is that the word migration, we translate it as hijrah, we translate it as migration. And we usually look at this as a physical transition from one place to another. Here again, very shallow. Because when we look at migration or hijrah as transitioning from one place to the next, we miss out on the real migration, which is the migration of the heart from one place to the next. The Prophet ﷺ had a mission within a mission. Because with every step of his mission as a messenger, he was also taking the same amount of steps in his own personal journey as a man. And we talked about that a little bit last night, that we concentrate on Muhammad, the messenger, the myth, and we very seldom see Muhammad, the man. He was a human being, having a real experience. And I think sometimes in our journey to understanding him, we kind of overlook this. And this is the most important part. Yes, him migrating from Mecca to Medina, that was important. But what about the migration of his heart from leaving his home, which was Mecca, migrating to a foreign place amongst people he did not know, in an environment that was not familiar? That is a whole other migration that we never focus on. That is what I want to concentrate on today. The migration within the migration. The mission within the mission. So when we look at the word hijrah, migration, we have to understand that it is a mental process. It is a mental transition before it is a physical transition from one place to the next. Before you make a decision to relocate, has anyone here ever relocated from one state to another, one city to another, from one job to another, from one marriage to another? All of these are different forms of migration. It can be a financial migration from one job to another. Financially, you are migrating. Sometimes you're making less than what you were making before. Sometimes you're making more than what you were making before. Nonetheless, it is still a migration. If you were divorced, if you had to ever go through the ugly experience of divorce and you remarried, you are going into a new situation with a new person, new set of emotions, new set of feelings, a new interpretation of love than the interpretation that you had with the last person. It's a migration, nonetheless. You guys follow me? These are all different forms of migration. You relocate from one place to another, one city to the next. And while we see it as parents as, relocating or positioning ourselves to put our families in a better situation, our children a lot of times suffer because of that. Because now they have to leave their friends. Now they have to leave their school. Now they have to leave familiarity to go into uncertainty. And a lot of times children, they experience anxiety, and we're not aware of that. When a child starts their first day at school, that is a migration, that is a hijrah. They're going from being in the comforts of being at home with mom all day long to now starting preschool, pre-K, kindergarten. And when we're walking that child to school, on the way to school, sometimes the child is crying. Sometimes the child, when you open the door to take them out to introduce them to their new school, they're clinging to the seatbelt. They don't want to leave. Anyone here experience that? Taking your child to school for the first day? Child raises his hand, right? It's daunting. They're experiencing trauma. And sometimes we tell them, it's going to be okay, get over it. They don't just get over that. They're suffering from anxiety. They're crying the whole day until you come to pick them up at 3 o'clock. This is a migration. This is a hijrah. Moving, transitioning from one place to the next. And while we see it from a physical standpoint, we oftentimes overlook the mental and emotional transition that goes along with that. You guys following me? So when we talk about the migration of the Prophet ﷺ, I want us to also consider what the Prophet ﷺ was doing. It wasn't just transitioning physically from one place to another. There was an emotional transition that went along with that. There was a spiritual transition that went along with that as well. So migration is a mental transition before it is a physical transition from one place to another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala captured in the verse where he talked about the Prophet ﷺ wanting to pray facing Mecca instead of Jerusalem. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet ﷺ, قَدْ نَرَى تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِكَ فِي السَّمَاءِ فَنُوَلِّيَنَّكَ قِبْلَةً تَرْضَاهَا فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ وَحَيْثُمَا كُنْتُمْ فَوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ شَطْرَهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that we see you, Muhammad, turning your face towards the sky. The Prophet ﷺ, in a desire to see the Qibla, the direction of prayer, change from Jerusalem to Mecca. This was an indication of where his heart was attached to, what his heart was attached to. When the Prophet ﷺ migrated to Medina, he said, Allahumma habbib ilayna al-Madina kahubbina Makkah. He said, oh Allah, make Medina beloved to us just as our love is for Mecca, aw ashad, or even worse, or even with a deeper sense of intensity. Showing you where his heart was attached to. He made dua that Allah allow him to love Medina like he loved Mecca. Because here again, the uncertainty, moving into a realm where I don't know how I'm going to feel about this place. And this is a dua that our children should learn if your parents are moving from one country to the next, moving from one city to the next. Make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow you to love your new city, just like your love and your heart was attached to your previous city. Because you're moving into a realm of uncertainty. You don't know how you're going to feel about this new place. But you rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to control the direction of your heart. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is muqallib al-qulub, He is the changer of the hearts. He changes the hearts however He sees fit, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we leave that in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah said, we see you, O Muhammad, turning your face towards the sky. The Prophet kept looking up to Allah, looking up. And this is an indication that our belief is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above the heavens. Allah is not in this room with us. Allah is not sitting here with us. That is not our belief. Allah says in 5 different places in the Quran that He is above His throne in a manner that befits His majesty. He asked the slave girl, who am I? She said, the messenger. He said, where's Allah? Ain Allah? The slave girl said, Fawqa sama. He's above the heavens. He said, Man ana? Who am I? She said, you are the messenger of Allah. He said, A'tikha fa innaha mu'mina. Free her, because she's a believer. This was a slave girl. Not someone well-read. And here we have all of these intellects and still can't figure out where God is. We're differing. Where God is. Here's a slave girl, unlettered, unread, and he asked her, where's Allah? And she responded based upon her fitrah, not based upon ilm. She wasn't responding based upon knowledge, theory. She was responding based upon a natural inclination of the heart to know that Allah, God, a power greater than yourself, is above you, not with you, in the same room, sitting with you. Understand that. The Prophet ﷺ is looking up to the heavens. Allah says, we see you constantly looking back and forth towards the heavens. We will soon turn your direction towards a qibla that you will be pleased with. Turn your face towards Shatr al-Masjid al-Haram, in the direction of Masjid al-Haram. The point that I'm making is that the migration of the heart had already happened. He was just waiting for the migration, the physical migration that came from the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His heart had already turned. You guys following me? That before there's a physical migration, there is an emotional migration. This is why sometimes a person can get divorced and then turn right around a month or 2 months later and look for marriage again. And while we sit from a place of privilege saying, well, you just got divorced 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago, how are you looking for another spouse now? Because emotionally, they had been divorced a long time ago. Right? They just went through the physical formality of signing a piece of paper and separating. But emotionally, they had been divorced years ago. There is no connection, which is what made it so easy for them to move on, because they had been divorced a long time ago. What we saw was the physical divorce, but an emotional divorce had taken place long before. You guys follow me? So there is a hijrah of the heart before there's a hijrah of the body. As I said yesterday, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Not human beings having a spiritual experience. Concentrate on the internal. So nonetheless, the The Prophet ﷺ's mindset was to pray facing towards the Kaaba. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accommodated him physically by changing the direction in which they faced from Jerusalem to Mecca. This is important because oftentimes people wait for external confirmation for things that common sense should already dictate. We're asking people for confirmation for things that your heart has already told you. We go, Sheikh, what is the Islamic ruling on this and that? And I'm in this situation in my marriage, and that situation in my marriage, and we're waiting for this Imam, this great Sheikh, to give you some great advice, and your heart has already spoken to you. Your heart has already told you. A man came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said to him, جِئْتَ لِتَسْأَلْ عَنِ الْبِرِّ استفتي قلبك. He said, you came to ask me about righteousness? He said, ask your heart. استفتي قلبك. Ask your heart. He said, righteousness, bir, مطمئنت إليه النفس. He said, righteousness is what the soul feels at ease with. What the soul feels tranquil with when you do it. You don't have any remorse. You feel good about it when you do it. And this is obviously if the fitrah is still salima, if your natural inclination hasn't been infringed upon by sin and disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what did the Prophet ﷺ tell him? He said, "Istafti qalbak," ask your heart. Your heart has a language. And sometimes we don't speak the same language as our hearts, so we're waiting for external confirmation. Umar radiallahu anhu, on many occasions, he corrected the Prophet ﷺ because his heart felt that it was wrong. He didn't wait for Allah to reveal an ayah to say that it was wrong. He responded immediately and the ayah came down confirming the position of Umar radiallahu anhu. The Prophet ﷺ stood to pray over the chief of the munafiqun, Abdullah ibn Ubayy ibn Salul, and Umar said, Ya Rasulullah, he's a munafiq, you can't pray over him. The Prophet ﷺ said, Akhir anni ya Umar. Back away from me, Umar. I'm going to pray over him until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells me otherwise. Umar didn't wait for revelation. His heart spoke and he responded to it. So the point that I'm making is that sometimes we wait for external confirmation for things that your heart and your soul should have already dictated to you. This is especially true as it relates to disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obeying Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam should already be aligned with our personal priorities and principles. Which in turn, when these things are infringed upon, it puts us in a place of discomfort. And when you are in a place of discomfort, you like to remove yourself from the people or the energy that has put you in that place of discomfort. And if we don't, then there will be divine repercussions. If you don't respond to your heart, there will be divine repercussions for that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, talking about migration, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَوَفَّاهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ قَالُوا فِيمَا كُنْتُمْ قالوا كنا مستضعفين في الأرض قالوا ألم تكن أرض الله واسعة فتهاجروا فيها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that when the angels come and take the souls of those who die, ظالمي أنفسهم, being oppressive to themselves by not responding to their hearts when they speak to them. You know it's wrong, but you don't respond. Can you not see the angels when they take the souls of those who die in sin? قَالُوا فِيمَا كُنْتُمْ, and the angels ask them, in what state are we taking your soul? And they say, in response, that we were مُسْتَضْعَفِينَ فِي الْأَرْضِ, where we were weak and oppressed in the earth, in terms of their resources. But the greatest resource, which is your heart, you never responded to. And the angels say, أَلَمْ تَكُنْ أَرْضُ اللَّهِ وَاسِعَةً, Wasn't the earth of Allah spacious? فَتُهَاجِرُ فِيهَا, and you could have gone anywhere. You stayed in an environment of sin knowingly. Your heart is telling you that this environment is wrong. It's destroying your children. We watch the religion of our children deteriorate right in front of our faces. And the thought of relocating, moving somewhere else in a more Islamically conducive environment for the protection of our children never crosses our minds. I love my city, I'm not moving. But you'll watch the religion, the deen of your children. Some of us came here from other countries. Your children were hafiz of Quran. Your children were muhafiduna ala salawatihim. Your children were those who preserved their prayers. Only to get in this environment for dunya, for money, and watch the religion of your children slowly slip through their fingers and you do absolutely nothing about it. Do you think that that is going to go unanswered? Yawm al-Qiyamah, la wallah. You will answer for that, Yawm al-Qiyamah. And just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned about these individuals, when the angels asked, قَالُوا فِيمَا كُنْتُمْ, and what situation were you in? قَالُوا كُنَّا مُسْتَضْعَفِينَ فِي الْأَرْضِ, we were weak and oppressed in the earth. And the angels will say, أَلَمْ تَكُنْ أَرْضُ اللَّهِ وَاسِعَةً, wasn't the earth of Allah spacious? Couldn't you have gone anywhere in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's earth? So I'm mentioning this because I want us to zoom in on the mental state of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored him with the command to migrate. His home was Mecca. And while we see hijrah, his migration, as warranted because of the persecution, the torture that the Muslims were experiencing at the hands of the kuffar of Quraysh, it wasn't as easy. Sahlun muyassara. It wasn't as easy as we think it is. When the Prophet ﷺ, as I said, when he entered Medina, he said, Allahumma habib ilayna al-Madina ka hubbina Makkah. Make us love Medina as we loved Mecca. Aw ashad, even more, with a greater intensity. So we're talking about leaving your family. We're talking about leaving your businesses. We're talking about leaving the homes that you were raised in. We're talking about leaving familiarity, things that you were familiar with, to an environment and a place that was unfamiliar, people that were foreign, territory that was uncharted by those group of people. And the whole thing of this transition represented uncertainty. And this is where trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes or becomes paramount to one's faith. We, as I said yesterday, we create comfort zones because it's familiar territory. And we don't necessarily have to rely on Allah when we're in familiar territory because we know. It's like a person who's blind, right? A person who's blind, in his or her own house, they can move around freely. They know where the kitchen is, they know where the pots are, they know where the dishes are, they know where the faucet is. They know how to get upstairs to the bedroom because they're in familiar territory. So even in the absence of eyesight, they can still navigate. But when you take that same individual and you put him outside of his home or her home, in that same state of blindness, there's a level of uncertainty that overcomes because this is unfamiliar territory. And this is where tawakkul ala Allah, trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes paramount to your faith. So the Prophet ﷺ instructed all of those who had the ability to migrate to do so. And this shows us that the end goal for the Prophet ﷺ wasn't his own self-preservation. It was the preservation of the people who followed him. Because the Prophet ﷺ was the last to leave. So real quick before I conclude, I want to paint a picture to you of how challenging this migration was for some of his companions. And then I'll leave you to draw your own conclusion about how difficult and how challenging this migration was for the Prophet ﷺ himself. Two incidents that were recorded in the compilations of hadith that record the migration of individuals as they moved from Mecca to Medina. One of whom was a woman by the name of Salama, and her husband Abu Salama, who was from the tribe of Makhzum, one of the upper tiers, from the top tiers of Meccan society, the upper echelons of Meccan society. She wanted to leave with her husband and her son Salama. So as they reached the outskirts of Mecca on their way out, their tribes, and although they were both from the same tribe, stopped them and would not allow them to leave. They told Abu Salama, you can go, the woman and the child stays here. Abu Salama, in adherence to the commandment of the Prophet ﷺ, continued to migrate, leaving behind his wife and his child. And anyone who has ever had to migrate and leave their wife and their children knows exactly what that feels like. And if you don't know what that feels like, then read Surah to Ibrahim alayhi salam, read Surah to Ibrahim in the Quran. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala captured Ibrahim's situation as he left his wife and his child in the barren valley of Mecca with nothing but a water skin and a few dates. And as Ibrahim walked away, he couldn't even look his wife in the face. And his wife Hajar, she said to him, Ila ayna ya Ibrahim? Where are you going, Ibrahim? He couldn't even turn around. He didn't even respond, he kept walking. And she asked again, Ila ayna ya Ibrahim? Where are you going, Ibrahim? And she asked him, Allahu amraka bihada. Did Allah command you to do this? And Ibrahim nodded with his head. And she said, Idhab idhan fa inna Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala la yudayyirna. She said, go. Allah has us. Allah will never command you to leave us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have us. And Ibrahim left his wife, and when he was out of earshot of his wife, he went behind a rock and he raised his hand. And he made dua. And in this dua, you can feel the pain of a man who had to leave his wife and his child. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا الْبَلَدَ آمِنًا وَجُنُوبَنِي وَبَنِيَّ أَن نَعْبُدَ الْأَصْنَامِ, to the end of that verse. And then he begins to talk about how he left his family with nothing. And then he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide the hearts of the people towards his family. رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ, so they may establish the salah. فَجَعَلْ أَفْئِدَةً مِنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوِي إِلَيْهِمْ وَارْزُقْهُمْ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَشْكُرُونَ. You can hear the pain in his voice. This is what happens when a man has to leave his family. And so for days, Salama kept going out, waiting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open a door for her. Until one day the tribes decided to take their child and go. And as she took her child, she reached the area of Tan'im, where we call today Masjid Aisha. This is where you go to assume your ihram if you are already in Mecca. And this is the place of ihram for the people of Mecca. And so when she gets to about 5 kilometers outside of Mecca, she was met by a man, Uthman ibn Talha. And he told her, and he was not a Muslim, and he told her that I would escort you and your child all the way to Madinah. لا يعلم جنود ربك إلا هو. None knows the army of your Lord except him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. إن الله لا يؤيد هذا الدين ولو برجل كافر وفي رواية ولو برجل فاجر. That Allah will aid this religion even if it's with a person who is a non-believer. Even if it's with a criminal, Allah will aid this religion. Until she reached the area of Quba, and Uthman told her, go in, your husband is there, go get your husband. And he walked back to Mecca, on foot, never waited for thanks. لا أريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. I don't want any thanks, I don't want any compensation. Walked back to Mecca. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala favored him with Islam the 7th year after Hijrah. The second was that of Suhaib, a Rumi, who used to make swords in the city of Mecca, and on his way out, when he heard the commandment of the Prophet ﷺ to migrate, he took everything and he left. On his way out, some of the chiefs of Mecca, they stopped him. And they told him that you came, entailed, haqiran, sa'iluka. You came to us humbled, poor, destitute, with nothing. And you earned a good life here in Mecca. Do you think, أَتَظُنُّ أَن تَخْرُجْ بِمَالِكَ وَنَفْسِكَ? Do you think we're going to allow you to leave with your soul, with your life, and your money? Not going to happen. You have to choose one or the other. You have to choose. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَشْرِي نَفْسَهُ بِابْتِغَاءِ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ. They are from amongst mankind those who would sell their soul for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not sell their soul for dunya. Not sell their soul for mal or jah, position, status. Not sell their soul for fame, fortune, money. Sell their soul, ibtigha mardatillah, seeking therewith the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Are you willing to sell your soul for Allah? Sell your soul. They told him, you made a good life for yourself here in Mecca. You will not leave with both. You will not leave with your life and with your money. Choose one. Suhaib, he said to them, everything that I made, if I gave you that, will you allow me to leave? They said, sure. He said, then I give you everything that I made. Everything that I own, you can have it. And he left. Umar, on the other hand, he didn't leave in secret. He stood in front of the Kaaba and he said that I'm leaving, going to Madinah. Any man who wants his wife to be a widow, any son who wants to leave his mother without a son, then meet me around the corner of this rock. He had a sword in one hand and multiple swords in another hand. You can stop me if you want. Any man who wants his wife to be a widow, and any son who wants to leave his mother here on earth by herself, meet me around the corner. No one moved. Obviously, no one dared take a step. Because Umar, it didn't matter to him. And so if this was the case with his companions, that it wasn't that simple, whether physically or emotionally, then you can only imagine what it was like for the Prophet ﷺ. And perhaps the next speakers coming on, inshallah ta'ala, I see some brilliant of our mashaykh here today, inshallah ta'ala, and perhaps they will touch on that to give you a more in-depth understanding of what was going through the heart, the mind, and life of the Prophet ﷺ during this tumultuous task. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to benefit from what we've heard. فإنه ذلك وقادر على كل شيء وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.